The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 245.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Welcome back to the EL. Today we have Jairek Robbins, author of Live It, Achieve Success by Living with Purpose. This was, out of 245 interviews, probably a top 5, one of my favorites. And not only was the interview good, but the time that Jairek was willing to spend with me afterwards, helping me out with some of the different things that I'm passionate about, was unbelievable. He didn't need to do it, but he took the extra time. We probably talked for an additional 30 or 40 minutes about some stuff that impacted his life and some of the things that I'm looking to do with my future. So, like I said, great book, phenomenal individual. I can't wait for you to hear this interview and visit some of the resources that he has available, because I think that some of the products, the book itself, and that kind of stuff can change your life. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Welcome, Jairek, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Before we jump into your book, Live It, will you take just a moment to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you personally.
Sure. I guess on the Entrepreneur's Library space, easiest way to introduce myself now is we're a best-selling author, performance coach, lifestyle entrepreneur. My last 6 years have been focused on creating a business that allows me to work from a laptop and a cell phone pretty much anywhere on earth. And my main business is performance coaching. And I'm proud to say we've been able to deliver our service everywhere between a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean to, I remember sitting down we were hiking through the jungles of Costa Rica, and I was sitting at a picnic table having lunch while doing a FaceTime call with someone working at Goldman Sachs, delivering a performance coaching session to them. And so having that flexibility and freedom to travel the world while still deliver high quality service was always our goal, and we've been able to successfully do it.
That's fantastic, and thank you for sharing that. Now let's jump right into your book, Live It, Achieve Success by Living with Purpose, which was made available not that long ago, actually September of 2014. And Jairek, we're going to move quickly, but our whole goal here today is to help this listener, this future reader, get a great idea of what your book's all about. And we'll do that by asking you a couple different questions. And the first one is, what was the inspiration behind writing Live It?
The inspiration was helping people figure out, level 1 of life, which is how do you become the happiest, healthiest, and most fulfilled version of yourself? I meet a lot of people out there who never quite figure themselves out, but think if I can go find someone to share my life with, then I'll be whole. Then you meet that person and their partner, and both of their lives are kind of all over the place. Or they're one of those people who goes out, has a great night, wakes up and graduates to level 3 the next morning, realizing there's a new baby on the way and they haven't even figured themselves out or their partner. So my thought is write a book that shows people how to master themselves as a human being. And we focus on all the different major areas of life, your health, your emotions, your finance, your business, everything it takes to really master who you are as a single individual person and become the happiest, healthiest, and most fulfilled version of yourself.
That's excellent. So this is, you and I talked beforehand, and this next question I think might be the most important of the interview, just because of the sheer number of books that are going to come out this month and this year. And so what makes your book different from others regarding the same or similar topic?
Sure. Well, what makes it different is everything in here. I actually wrote this book 10 years ago, and I got to 97 pages of it, and it's only 200, so I got about halfway through. And I sat down, I looked at my life, and I looked at what I was teaching, and I'd realized something that a lot of people in this industry don't quite call themselves out on. I realized some of which I was sharing wasn't quite something that I had really, truly, deeply lived in my life thus far. It's a concept I'd learned about. It's something I'd studied. It's something I knew that worked. It's a solution that I've offered another person and seen them get great success with. But it's not something I've fully applied in my own life and business to get the result I really wanted. And when I got gut level honest with myself, I realized that I needed to go do that first, which I hate to say this, but if you're gut level and truly honest, there's a lot of authors out there who've written about stuff that they quite haven't done themselves. They might have researched it. They might have seen someone else do it. They might have heard about it being done, but they haven't lived it. They haven't really gone out and fully applied it in their own life. And I believe there is a difference between a theory, a study, a research project, and something you've actually lived. Because when you've lived it, you have real, true, gritty, hands-on experience that you can share with someone about to go through the same process. And so what makes this book different is literally everything in it I've personally lived myself. I have also tested it with thousands of different clients we've worked with over the past 12 years in our performance coaching business. 6 years I've had it on my own, but 6 years prior I worked for my dad. And through 12 years of working with thousands of people one-on-one, I've seen this stuff not only personally go through in my own life, but in their lives and businesses and health and everything else as well. And I would say that's probably the biggest standout feature of this book, because some of the content, some of the steps I'm sure you've heard from somewhere or you might have read once or twice. But the difference also is it's not about reading it just to learn the concept. Every single chapter has a workbook section at the end in it of how to immediately apply this concept and apply this theory and apply this practice immediately into your life and business. And so even if you picked up the book and flipped to the end of each chapter and just applied the work, you'd see results happen almost immediately.
So I'm glad you just brought that up, because the next question was, how do you suggest the reader engage with your book? Is this a book that they can jump in, jump out, cherry picking information, or did you really design it to be read from front to back? And I think you just alluded to that a little bit, but maybe you can take it a step further.
Sure. I mean, it's very simple. It is an action plan of how to master yourself as a human being, like I said previously. But the way it was designed is chapter 1 is how do you design the absolute perfect day? Meaning if you could just design one single day that was worth more than any amount of money, worth more than any amount of fame or power or status, meaning there's nothing on earth you would trade for that day. And I remember when I first introduced that to a client who was a managing director at Goldman Sachs, one level below a partner. And I asked him the concept and he went through it. And he came back and said, honestly, what I'm doing today, even though it's what people dream of in my position, in my business, in my career, it's not what I love. And it's not that day for me. And so once you identify what the day is, chapter 2 and 3 helps you break it down into an actual step-by-step plan. Chapter 4 through 11 prepare you for every single step of the journey, obstacles that show up, challenges you'll face, how to get through times when life takes you to your knees, how to stay focused and motivated when you don't feel like it. Like every single little step in between is detailed and specifically has an action plan of how to get through it, how to move forward, how to make progress. And then the final step is, hey, once you've turned that one day into reality, how do you then take that one day and magnify it into your 5, 10, and 20-year vision and plan for your life in the same exact format?
So, Jairek, now that we know a little bit of the background, the purpose, and the inspiration of the book, let's take a deep dive into the content itself. Will you take the next 5 to 8 minutes and really give this future reader a great idea of what your books is all about?
Absolutely. I mean, I could walk you through point by point. Just like I said, the very first chapter is your ideal day vision. And what your ideal day vision is, like I alluded to, if you were to wake up in the morning of your absolute perfect day, just take a moment and think, what would be the first thought that would cross your mind if you woke up on that morning? What's the first sight you'd see? Who would you be with on your perfect day? Now, if you were to take that and kind of magnify the morning and say, from 9 a.m. till noon, what's everything you do? Where would you go? What would you experience? What would you learn? How would you feel? What would be possible? If you keep going, what would you do for lunch? Who would you have lunch with on that perfect day? Fast forward throughout the afternoon, what's everything you'd spend your time doing? How much energy would you have? How much life would you have in your mind, your body, your emotions? Now, as you keep going, in the evening, when you go home, would you take time to watch the sunset? Would you take time to kind of soak in the beauty and magnificence of life? From there, when you got home for dinner, who'd be there for you? Who'd be there with you and for you? What would you have for dinner? What would you do after dinner? Read a book? Play games, be crazy, like Pictionary family. I don't know who you are. From that point, when you go to bed, what would you be grateful for? So it really maps out a variety of different ideal days, everything between that gentleman working at the big bank all the way to a mid-level manager to a stay-at-home mom, helps you create an understanding of what the options are and helps you narrow it down for yourself. Chapters 2 and 3, it just focuses on the absolute majors of life. So it starts off with your health and helps you get an understanding of where you are and how do you rate that? How do you really get an understanding of how do you scale your health properly? It's certainly not on the media's definition of shape as much as it is on the actual natural energy and life you have within you. So how do you scale that? And then it gives you a scale and has you actually take a current measurement of where you're really at. Emotions, emotional strength. The key with this is, honestly, if you don't have your emotional strength, you don't have much. I mean, you could have $1 billion, to have the biggest company in the world, an amazing, magnificent family, be in super great health. But if you feel emotionally broke on the inside, your life is broke. And that's a bummer. I mean, you could wake up feeling fear, anxiety, stress, anxious, any of those negative emotions, and that's going to be your life no matter how much you have or how much you experience every day. Versus on the flip side, you could have hardly anything, but if you have true emotional strength and emotional control of your life, you could feel rich and abundant instantaneously, even though in the external world, there's not a whole lot there to prove it. And all that comes from within. It shows you exactly how to create those emotions and really experience the great ones. From there, it goes into, professional life and relationships, and it helps you figure out where you currently are and what's your plan to improve and what are you going to do. And my belief is, chapters 2 and 3 is something someone should really go through at least once a month. Sit down, open the book and say, okay, where am I in all these areas? How am I currently doing? Where would I like to be? And what is my plan this month to actually get me there? And that simple little progress of consistently measuring and fine-tuning your life is amazing. And what happens is, 3 months from now, it doesn't seem like a whole lot's changed, but 3 years from now, you're a different human being. And most people don't realize that. And the truth is, most entrepreneurs are so busy in their business, they don't ever take time for their life. And then one day they wake up and have this amazing business, but they look behind them and, they see a trail of all the people they burnt through, and their kids haven't seen them in months, and their wife barely knows who they are, or husband barely knows who they are, because they've been so locked into this one area of their life and they've forgotten about the rest. So this book is really made to help them never forget about any portion of their life and always keep them making progress and really improving. If you move forward, chapter 4, now that you have a plan, you've broken it down, your daily action plan, you have a way to measure and fine tune, you're ready to make progress. How in the world do you ignite yourself emotionally to actually do it? And this is a big one. I've met people who have a lot of dreams and lofty goals who you ask them like, okay, great. You said you want to make your $1 million. You said you want to change 1 million lives. You said you want to build this new product, or you want to take that trip around the world with your family. What'd you do today for that? And they kind of scratch their head and look at you and they say, well, I don't know. I thought about it. It's like, well, that's not going to do much for your life. So how do we actually get you to a point where we build up so much emotional rocket fuel, it drives you into action? So now you're not just standing there thinking about it, but you're full steam ahead. You're making progress. You're actually doing something about those goals every single day. So we use a handful of examples of how to use pain and pleasure, how to use, a reason outside of yourself, how to define what that reason is and drive yourself with that reason. Also, how to create a compelling vision that naturally pulls you and compels you towards your goals, not so you don't have to push yourself every day. From there's a chapter 5 of how to fall in love with hard work. I hate to say it, but if you're an entrepreneur and you haven't figured out the fact that there's going to be some hard work along the way, you're probably not that far into your business thus far, or you're still dreaming about even starting a business, which you really need chapter 4 to ignite yourself and actually start it. But when you're in the process of building, or you're in the process of reaching the world, or really going out there and reaching your goals, there's going to be days where you have to grind. And my thought is, instead of having to suffer through that or survive through it, how do you really thrive through it? How do you really train your mind and emotions to actually thrive on those moments when you're putting in the grind, you don't like the process, but how do you immediately kind of adjust your mindset to literally fall in love with the process right then and there? And we've used this process to take someone who hates working out, and within a day or two, they fall in love with it, and they never missed going to the gym for months. You take someone who hates going to certain meetings, and within a few moments, mind shift, they love the meetings, and now it's their favorite thing to do in their office. And it's not that hard. It comes down to really 2 key points, which is perception and procedure. But in that chapter, we show you exactly how to apply both in your life and mindset to get that shift to happen. The next one, number 6, 3 opponents. Every human being on earth, I don't care who you are, when you go after your goals, there's going to be opponents. And we break these down into 3. You have external opponents, people you really don't know. people you might have met once or twice, who you tell them your goals, you tell them your vision, you tell them your dreams, they look at you and say, that is just ridiculous. and as simple as that sounds, that can radically derail someone almost immediately. If they're a new, entrepreneur or just getting started, and you tell someone, they tell you it's ridiculous, and bingo, someone just dropped out of business right there because one person said it was silly. Now, if you make it past those external opponents, eventually you meet some intimate opponents. And these are people who know you very well. They've seen you fail once or twice in life. They've seen you hit some hard times. They love you and they care about you. But they show up and you tell them you're going to start your new business and you're going to, grow this new leg of your team and you're going to expand to this new country. And they say, remember last time you tried that? How'd that turn out? And it's like, oh, kick in the gut. Why would you do that? But they're doing it, and we tell you exactly why they're doing it. We tell you how to heal those relationships if you have one or two in your life. And honestly, we tell you also how to consistently get through those moments if they show up. The final opponent you face is the internal opponent, which is yourself. That day when you're working, you don't see a whole lot of progress. You look at yourself in the mirror and you think, is this even worth it? Do I even believe in this anymore? In that moment, we show you a very specific formula of how to get your confidence back, how to get your certainty back, how to lock back onto that goal, and how to keep moving forward when most people give up and quit in that moment. So we show you how to be one of those few percentage of people who actually make it through those moments. From there, we go through a fun story, just a reminder, you're not guaranteed a tomorrow, chapter 7. It's a time in my life when I was reminded at a very young age that there's really no guarantee for tomorrow. So as much as I think my long-term vision and plan is the biggest and greatest thing on earth, if I'm not living and taking action today, it doesn't really matter. If I'm not squeezing the juice out of life today and making the most out of every moment I'm here, one day I'm going to wake up and not have a next day and realize, wow, all those things I planned for in the future don't even have a chance to come true. And I missed out on this moment today because I was so worried about what was next. So it teaches you, as much as you're aiming for this future goal and plan, as much as you're striving for progress and constant growth and improvement and this long-term vision of what you really want, you have to make the most of the day. And it shows you how to balance both of those concepts in a very simple way and get the most out of both. Next, get knocked back into the minors. There's always a point in time when you're making progress, you're going, you're moving forward, and then one day you wake up and go, what the heck happened? I feel like I'm 5 steps further behind than when I first started. What happened? How did I go in reverse? And there's always moments in people's lives and career and finance and business when this happens, relationships even. And we show you how to make sure you don't get caught in this space, how to identify when you have been kind of kicked back into this space, and how to immediately get yourself out of it. From there, finding the true you. This is a big chapter, chapter 9. There's a lot of people out there, especially entrepreneurs, who've gone out and they've worked so hard to achieve massive goals. But very few of them realize a lot of those goals they're achieving and the blueprint they're using to run their life is a direct reflection of what they thought they needed to do as a kid to get love from someone they really desired it from. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt. There's a lot of healing done in this chapter. And, it was put in this book specifically because I've met way too many entrepreneurs who, 30, 40 years into their business, they've been working, building. They hit a point and realize, wow, holy smokes. The only reason I've really done all of this is to show my dad that I could actually do something with my life and be productive, or, to prove to my mom that I was smarter than she thought, or to prove to my uncle who said I'd never be anything in my life that I was going to be something. And as awesome as the results are, as great as the achievement has been, they're still empty on the inside because it was done for something external and not internal. It wasn't done for their reasons. It wasn't done because it was their goal or their plan or their dream. It was done to prove to someone externally what was possible. And as awesome as the results are, it's still very unfulfilling in that moment. So this chapter helps people, get clear and make sure if you're someone who's way down the road and 30, 40, 50 years in the business, it'll make sure that you reset and really you're doing it for your reasons from this moment forward. If you're someone who's just getting started, this is beyond an important chapter. It'd be worth the whole book just to buy and read this chapter and make sure that your blueprint is set up really, truly for your reasons and not for anyone else's. Moving forward, harnessing mental strength. There's going to be times when you just need to stay focused and you need to be mentally strong and be willing to push through anything that shows up. And this chapter has a variety of different tools. From visualization and mental rehearsal, it digs into, exactly how Muhammad Ali would prepare for boxing matches and how to use that every single day to prepare your mind for the day, for those important meetings, for the negotiations, how just a simple 5 or 10 minute mental rehearsal, which is very different than visualization, but how that just few moments of mental rehearsal can actually increase your overall performance and results in negotiations, in meetings, a new project pitch or a sales presentation. It's amazing. And most people don't tap into this, and it shows you exactly a simple way to do it in just a few minutes each day to maximize it. Moving forward, the final chapter 11, I guess not the final chapter, but chapter 11, this is a workshop we've done for companies all over the world, from Dubai to Tokyo to Australia, the US, Canada, just about everywhere, London, UK. And this is a very specific step-by-step organized sequence that we take companies and people through as like a jump start, or how to launch them as a person or a business into action. And we broke it into 4 specific steps. We show them exactly how to do it in this chapter. Number 1 is identifying where you really want to go, anything that's slowing you down. Number 2 is, how to really break through anything that's ever slowed you down or can possibly slow you down. The step number 4 is how to commit 1,000% to it. And we give you a beautiful, heart-touching story of someone who's really done this and is a beautiful example of it. And then 4 is, how to get your actions done today, right now, this moment. And so by the time you get done with that chapter, you will find yourself in action, making progress and taking action towards things you might have been thinking about for years, but never done anything about. And then the final chapter, like I said, now that you've been able to use everything up until this point to turn your ideal day into reality, now it helps you set up your 5, 10, and 20-year vision and plan for your whole life to ensure that you have a long-term vision of where you're headed and you know exactly how you're going to get there.
Jairek, you did a phenomenal job of taking us through. I know it's not exactly easy to break down an entire book in just a couple of minutes, but one, I wanted to say you did a phenomenal job. And now I'm going to be mean, and I'm going to ask you to take it even a step further. In that, if the reader could only take away one concept, principle, or action item out of your entire book, everything you just discussed with us, what would you personally want that to be?
Oh man, it would depend on the person. Like I said, person's doing everything for the wrong reasons. They go to chapter 9 and read that, changes their whole life. All of a sudden they get to enjoy the process versus always feel like they're trying to prove someone wrong. Overcoming those opponents is crucial for people in those moments. Everything. I guess, if you were going to pick up the book and only read one chapter ever and only get one concept from it, I guess it's why we put it as chapter 1, but I would say read that ideal day chapter. Because if you were able to take that one chapter and design your absolute ideal day, that day that you wouldn't trade for anything, that'd be more fulfilling and more rich and more purpose-filled than any other day you've ever lived on your life. The type of day that if you were to die at the end of the day, you would die fulfilled, knowing you truly lived, you truly loved, you truly mattered, that who you are as an individual will leave a legacy ripple on this planet far beyond your life physically being here on Earth. If you can design that day and turn it into reality, I think I would have done my job with this book.
That's huge. That is absolutely huge. And you've said so many quote-worthy things throughout this entire interview, and that actually leads to our next question. And our listeners love a good quote. So do you have a favorite quote from your book? Something that you actually personally wrote that has resonated with the audience so far? And will you take a minute to explain what it means to you?
I guess the best quote I would use, and it is in this book, I think it's towards the end, but it's a concept more than a quote. As it is a quote, but it's more of the concept around it. And it's a 3-part quote, which is just learn it, live it, give it. And it's really, truly the entire concept of everything that we do. And it's my challenge to people out there in the world to go out and learn what it takes to turn the life of their dreams into reality. Fully apply everything that you learn and really live it. And finally, I hope, in some way, shape, or form, we've inspired you that once you're able to get the results in your own life, that you find a way to give it and pay forward every single thing you've learned to hopefully inspire or offer some solutions or, challenge people to go out and do the same in their life. And that's what I believe is part of my personal legacy ripple on this world is if I can keep that ripple moving, it'll reach more people beyond me, even when I'm gone. And that's something I'd be really proud of.
That is phenomenal, Jairek. And we're going to put that in the show notes. at the elpodcast.com. So many of our listeners, because they are entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, are mobile right now, 75, 80% of them. And so we'll put it there so they can go back and reflect on this further. And that leads into our next question as well, which we'll also put on there. But if there was only one book you could recommend, based on the way that it's changed your life, maybe created a lifestyle shift, a paradigm shift, which book would you suggest?
Specifically for entrepreneurs?
Actually, this is, it doesn't technically have to be. This is, in your case, it can be a nonfiction, a fiction, a business, a non-business. It is totally a personal question. Yeah, it does not have to be for a specific, but a book that has just changed your life, created a paradigm shift, helped you move forward personally or professionally.
I have different ones in different categories. I think since it is entrepreneurs listening, I would probably throw the E-Myth Revisited out there. Just really understanding your personal approach to business and which personality type you fit into. I coach so many entrepreneurs one-on-one, and it's so silly to see someone who, you know, they're a talent or they're a gifted practitioner slip into a manager role. And even though they have a multi-million-dollar business that's doing wonderful, they hate it. And it's like, wow, if they just understood that concept and they understood their gift as being a practitioner and not a manager, and you could just easily have them to really enjoy the process of staying in their passion and their strength, all of a sudden they love the process, their business grows, they enjoy the process, and it's the greatest thing on earth again. And it's just because they don't understand that concept. And I think it's so crucial for entrepreneurs, and so many just have no clue how easy it is to fix.
That's a fantastic book. It's actually on our, we have a resource for folks that has the top 10 books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs. And that is one of them. That is one of those top 10 books. So thank you for referencing that. And Jairek, before we depart, can you recommend the best way for our listeners to not only get more information on you, but also get information on your book, Live It?
Sure. 2 sites, JarekRobbins.com. And then liveitbook.com. And both sites have free gifts on it and awesome stuff for the reader if they want to check it out, and everything they'll need to know.
Excellent. Well, Jairek, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your book with us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again for listening in today. If you'd like more information on Jairek or his book, Live It, check out the show notes at the elpodcast.com.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to the elpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's the elpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.